Nightwatch.
For years, I'd worked the night shift at Harlow Memorial Hospital, a sprawling medical facility dating back to the 1900s. The job was straightforward: monitor the security cameras, patrol the darkened corridors occasionally, and most importantly, ensure that everyone left by 9 p.m. But tales of the hospital's haunted fourth floor were legendary. Closed off for decades, it had housed patients during a deadly influenza outbreak in the 1920s. The floor was now used for storage, yet cameras still lined its halls, mostly to deter mischievous teenagers or urban explorers. On a particularly quiet night, as I scanned the camera feeds, I noticed something unusual on the fourth floor. One of the lights was flickering at the end of a hallway. I toggled the feed, and for a split second, I could have sworn I saw a figure standing underneath it. Blinking hard and rubbing my eyes, I blamed my fatigue. An hour later, as I sipped my cold coffee, a soft lullaby wafted through the security intercom. The voice, a woman's, sang a melancholic tune that sent shivers down my spine. I checked the feed again. Camera 4, located in the old pediatric wing of the fourth floor, showed a children's ball bouncing down the corridor. No one was in sight. I felt a knot in my stomach. Protocol dictated I investigate any anomalies. Grabbing my flashlight, I made my way to the old elevator. It groaned in protest as it ascended. Stepping onto the fourth floor, the temperature dropped noticeably. My flashlight beam barely pierced the oppressive darkness. As I walked the corridor, I came across the bouncing ball. Picking it up, it was ice cold to the touch. I thought of returning it to one of the rooms, but the door handles were all coated in decades of dust. Clearly, no one had entered them for years. That's when I heard soft footsteps behind me. Turning around, no one was there, but a trail of wet footprints led the way I had come. My heart raced as I followed them to the old surgical theater. Pushing the door open, I was met with an impossible sight. The room was not as it was on my last patrol. Instead, it looked operational. Instruments laid out, lights overhead, and an operating table in the center. On it lay a sheet-covered body. The same melancholic lullaby echoed softly, its source coming from underneath the sheet. Unable to resist my morbid curiosity, I approached the table. Just as I was about to pull back the sheet, the singing stopped. The room grew colder, the silence deafening. Gathering my courage, I yanked the sheet. The bed was empty. Recoiling in horror, the light started to flicker. In the brief moments of darkness between flickers, I saw them. Patients from another era. Their eyes hollow, mouths agape, in silent screams. Surrounding me, I ran, not looking back, hearing their whispers grow louder, feeling their icy fingers graze my skin. The elevator seemed miles away. As I pressed the button frantically, the old doors took an eternity to close, the figures inching closer. When it finally descended, I collapsed in relief. Exiting on the ground floor, I sprinted to the security room, locked myself in, and called the police. They arrived quickly, finding no evidence of what I'd described. The fourth floor was just as it should be. Empty, dusty, untouched. They put it down to fatigue, a trick of the light, or perhaps the stories of the haunted floor finally getting to me. I handed in my resignation the next day. Weeks after leaving Harlow Memorial, I received a letter with no return address. Inside was a black and white photograph, dated 1924. It was a picture of the hospital staff, nurses, and doctors standing proudly outside the building. In the back, barely visible, stood a figure holding a children's ball, her eyes hollow, her mouth open in a silent scream. The note attached read, "Thank you for visiting us. Don't be a stranger.